This is Tornado Tumblers, Spring 2025, week 7 to 8. I'm going to cover here the setup for the floor area. You can see this is madness and cannot be like this during warm-up. So the things that will need to be gone much of the time. This panel mat is only needed for age 5 and 6, so that can be put on a wall if you don't have that class. These cones are only for age 5 and 6. So if that's not your class, you can collapse them off to the side. When you teach that, you need to know to get those out. This hot spot is only needed for ages 9 to 11 and will be a huge temptation to other kids. So if it's not a 9 to 11 class, it's got to get out of there. And as often as you can, tip it up on a wall so kids aren't messing around with it. Way back in the corner, those mats need to be there for 9 to 11, but aren't used otherwise, but aren't really in the way. This panel mat is for ages 7 to 8, but not for the other classes. This vaulting ramp, springboard, and stick is for every age group. And then the laser beam is going to be used as it was last 2 weeks for 7, 8, and 9 to 11 to keep working on their cartwheels, and is going to be used set up that same way for 5 to 6, but for their teeter-totter and kick to handstand. So for 5 to 6, what I would do is take one of these dots and move it back to the other half of the beam so they can do a teeter-totter next to it, and then come up next to the next one and do their kick to handstand with their hands on the panel mat, but their feet landing on the beam. Things of note over here on the bar side. So this bar is only going to be used for 7 and 8s to do toe up. So I wanted to show how I would attach this puppy foam so they can hang with their hands on either side and then lift their toes up to touch the foam. And this bar should be raised pretty much as high as it goes so that it's kind of like they're hanging on a high bar and practicing a toe up. And then you're just going to need to know how to have them do a tuck hang or an L hang for those kids who can't get their feet all the way up there. But if you could show a toe up or have a coach in the room show it so the kids know what they're working towards, that would be great. Over here, I just wanted to show how I would put the shoelaces for everybody to practice their pivot turn. I intentionally chose them to be different colors so you could say to kids from far away, your friend's at the green one, that means you can be crawling up. Or when you're giving instructions, once your friend leaves the purple one and goes to the green one, then you could tell them when they can be getting on the beam. That's also one of the examples that I put for up here. I didn't tie one on, but you could put one like this, where you could say, once you've walked backwards and you know you can see the shoelace in front of you, that's when you can turn around. Or you could also put a dot on the ground and talk to them about peripheral vision, but know that kids are many times just nervous because they don't know where the end of the beam is. So if you could give them a visual cue, that would be great. And you might need to do just some name calling of, hey, Katie, take 2 more steps and then turn around. You're getting close to the end. So help them at that so that they can practice the skill of going backwards, because we don't want them to totally miss that just because they don't know where the end of the beam is. I did not do it for this video, but this is where the soft top resi is going to go for those tree falls for ages 5 to 8 and for those jump to their backs for 9 to 11. This bar setup is going to be the same, where we're using sometimes with the cheese mat, sometime with the rings. This is the big difference at this time. And this is currently set up how it should be for the 5, 6 class and the 7, 8. So give them a nice easy spot to crawl up, grab onto the bar, put a hula hoop straight below them. If kids are wiggling their legs around or trying to swing when they shouldn't, you get to say then, your feet need to be pointed at the hula hoop. Then you want them to try to be hanging for 10 seconds, where some kids that will be hard, some kids could go for longer, but we want to be challenging them to hang in that long body and increase their strength. That's where you could also get a puppy foam and have their partner put it between their legs to work on that leg form. And then make sure that they're dropping straight down into that hula hoop in a stick position. And then in the next video, where I'm describing more what to do for the 9 to 11 class, I'll show how I would slightly change this setup for that skill. Here is how I would set up the bar for these new tap swings or bent knee swings. So I think for most of our 9 to 11-year-olds, they could probably hang with their legs straight, but some of them might need to bend their knees slightly. But the things I wanted to point out are that I put this here, heaven forbid, somebody shoots forwards off the bar. And then in the other video, I clipped where I showed how you start and how you finish. And then as I put in the lesson plan, they should start nice and easy on their first one. So almost like squatting down and letting themselves swing forward to back. And then as they get more gutsy, you could let them jump their butt up a little bit, but do not let them start from their hands not already touching the bar. And then as I showed in the landing, they should be landing in that hula hoop with their hands reaching at the bar. So the other part that gets kind of scary is when kids don't recognize how big their swing can make their hands feel like they're slipping, they come forwards and they still hang on, but then they go backwards and they like ping off in the back. And so this station needs to be monitored. It needs to be you standing right here. And what I would do is once their hands on the bar, reach up and grab their wrist and then let them swing out and swing back. And then you can hang on to their arm all the way until they're stuck there. And you'll know, I think, when you spot that first round, who could have easily done it and who might have got a little bit out of control. And at that point, don't walk away from the kids who seem like they might get out of control. The other tricky part is once they start getting gutsier and it didn't feel scary, they're gonna start swinging bigger. And if you start to try to watch their hands, you can tell whose is like, you know, kind of like barely hanging on and who's got a good grip on it. But again, do not let them do more than one swing. Make sure you help them feel forwards, back, and drop so that they don't accidentally swing more than one time. And if you need to, switch kids to the 7/8 station where they just hang still and drop straight down, and do not be scared to do it, especially if it is involving their behavior. If they are acting crazy, like they don't care what you have to say, that is the number one reason to change this station for them. This is a big, tall order, and it can get really scary. This is kids fly off and they put their hands down under them and they break their arms. So you have to take it really serious and make sure. And that might mean that you might need to either remove this station or you need to spot it instead of this station. And that might be a tricky business where you might need to be pairing together the 9 to 11s who can try this pullover alone, and you don't want to like spot them as much so that you can spot other kids over here. You might need to go spot this one, spot them each once, then say, okay, hang out here. You can try your pullover by yourself. I'm gonna go spot this one and be switching back. But I just cannot stress how much you've gotta take it serious. I think it's gonna be a fun station for the kids, but it just has huge potential to go poorly. So skip it if you need to, don't risk it. Lastly, I wanted to discuss the back bend because we haven't talked much about it yet. So I took a video of a couple things that could be important that we'll repeat a few times here. Other things I put in the lesson plan are simply holding a bridge if they shouldn't be working on this. Or you could use the 2 cones where the age 5-6 class is crab walking between and switch theirs to a bridge walk. So they're working on that same flexibility and muscles without going back onto their hands. These things where I'm kind of doing them standing here, arching, and then standing back up are things that I would, while I'm giving directions, have the kids all stand up and try, where they're kind of reaching their arms back but not moving their body, and then pushing their hips forwards, seeing how far back they can go slow and still stand back up. So those are that muscle and control that kids want to feel for a back bend. So I would have them try all of those, just like I did in this video. But this video is also to show like how you're going to start, like straight stand, then go feet shoulder width apart. And then right there, I'm showing that's where I push on the kids' hands and go, are your handstand hands ready? And half the time when I push on their hands first, their arms kind of collapse. So that's kind of getting them ready And then here when I walk around the mat, I'm showing that you can start down on the carpet and then put your hands up on the mat. But some of the kids that aren't as flexible, that kind of makes their wrists fold back more, so they don't like it as much. But obviously it's making the ground closer to their head, so if they do fall, they're not going to fall as far. This would be if they stepped up onto the mat and did on the flat ground, but at least it's softer. This one here is where I would have the kids reach back and touch the wall like this and then stand back up for that muscle and control. But then next you'll see me actually put my weight on the wall. And then that's where you can let them actually walk their hands down the wall. And they'll need to walk their feet out a little bit as they do that too. But then they're going through the motion but using the wall to slow them down. And if you're going to spot them, I would stand face to face with them. So you're both standing up on the same level that they can see you. And I think that's important because kids often will turn around because they don't know if you're going to be there because they can't see you. And then I think that also creates kids who kind of twist and turn sideways, where they put one hand back first before the other one. And I think that's just about the worst mistake you can make. That causes a lot of rotational wrist and elbow fractures if they fall back and they're twisting. And so I just am really, really strict about that right away. And if I was spotting, I would have them start in that straight stand, push on their hands, and then I would grab kind of right by their armpits and then hold like their upper back and their armpits on the way back. And I even would use my thumbs to like push their arms back before their head goes back, and then just be able to hold on to their arms all the way till their hands are on the ground.